Today we're going to be talking about THCV, right?
That's right.
And minor cannabinoids, that's what it's classified as. We're talking about those cannabinoids that are rare, like those holographic Pokemon cards. You're not going to open any pack or any seed pack and get these. It takes intention. Hey everybody, welcome back to Hot Dabs Sessions, presented live from Rosin Evo Studios in sunny San Diego. I'm your host, Hashavelli, joined as always by Dr. Darby, making his return off the IR. And today we have a very special guest joining us straight from the Emerald Triangle. We have Joseph from Emerald Spirit Botanicals and Farm Cut. Joseph, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you guys. Super happy to be here.
Happy to have you. Now, you called me when you were pulling up and I saw a Willits number and I said, shit, somebody from my hometown is calling me, and it happened to be Joseph. So we got two local NorCal guys coming to you live and direct today. We're going to be talking regenerative farming, we're going to be talking sustainable farming, and we're going to be talking minor cannabinoids. Speaking of minor cannabinoids, I'm ready for some major cannabinoids. What do you say, Darby?
Let's go.
So Joseph mentioned to us before the show, he's not that big of a dabber, he's more of a flower guy. So me and Darby are going to go ahead and take the first dab of the show, get things warmed up, get a little smoke flowing, and we're going to start the conversation. And then we're going to go in halfway through the show on some Pink Boost Goddess. Now, if you guys are familiar with this strain, you may be familiar with THCV. Now, I'm sure you can tell us more than I can. Will you tell us a little bit about what exactly THCV is, Joseph?
Yeah, so THCV is another cannabinoid. It's really similar to THC. It has a slightly shorter carbon side chain, so it interacts with the endocannabinoid system in a slightly different way. What it does in your experience is it's very uplifting, creative, focusing, similar to like a coffee type high. And then it has a lot of medical benefits. It helps regulate blood sugar, which is really nice to help with cravings or the munchy sensation. Can be really helpful for diabetics who are trying to work with their blood sugar levels. And then it helps with neuropathic pain or nerve pain, which is a certain type of pain that,
I could definitely use some of that
could
today.
be helpful for you.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm super excited about
Darby,
this.
some would say, broke his arm specifically for this episode, but we'll save that for the conspiracy theory episode.
Cannabis for the cure, baby. Fuck synthetics.
Now, when you mentioned it was a minor cannabinoid and it reacts differently from others, do you know what would make it do so?
So my understanding is it's a 3-carbon side chain instead of a 5-carbon side chain.
Okay.
THC is a 5-carbon side chain. THCV is a 3-carbon. So just the way that, if you think of it like a lock and key, the way that it fits into the lock and turns the lock is just slightly different. And we're still doing a lot of research to understand like exactly how and exactly why. But I'm really trying to be a pioneer in the anecdotal research side of it, and just let's experience this for myself. Let's experience this with some patients and start to build a better understanding of what this cannabinoid can do for
just
us.
off of personal R&D.
Yep.
Now, what started your journey with this minor cannabinoid? A lot of people aren't even familiar with what it is, but you guys have intentionally been hunting it and trying to find strains that gain higher levels of it.
Yes.
What led to this discovery?
So we've been breeding for THCV for 9 years now.
Wow. Almost a decade specifically for THCV. And this has
with
always
Pink
been
Boost Goddess.
this strain specifically.
Yeah.
So back crossing it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, that's what's really
selecting.
fire. You've been involved with the actual THCV for 10 years, and people nowadays are still barely even learning about it. So the fact that you were ahead of the game 10 years to be able to cultivate such a unique terpene is really exciting, because a lot of people are like, what's THCV?
Yeah. So we had kind of been learning about. So when we first started breeding, my mom is really, she's a medicine woman. She's a breeder. She's an incredible plant woman. And she raised my brother and I on the farm. So we were, growing up off grid.
Is this in Willits?
Yeah, in Willits. Yeah, we were
That's badass.
living on the land. We had our little farm.
The heart of the Emerald Triangle, for anybody unaware. You used to have to drive through Willits when you went up the 101, inevitably going to Humboldt, but they made the highway go around it now.
Gateway
But
to the Redwoods.
It is, yeah.
Yep.
And it's just one of the most beautiful small towns, and still have a community vibe. People care about one another and the environment, okay?
Yep. Yeah, 100%. So we we had kind of established ourselves in working with CBD flower. We had bred 1 to 20 CBD, we had bred 1 to 1 THC to CBD, and then we wanted to sort of explore some of the other minor cannabinoids that the plant produced, and so we did a kind of like a seed hunting project. We had some people gifted us seeds, some seeds we bought, some seeds we just had in our bank, and we started around 800 different seeds.
Wow.
And then we tested every single plant. And what we found is about 1 in 80 of the plants that we tested had around 2% THCV, and that was in the Pink Buscatus line.
And would you get them tested during veg or after they were flower?
Both.
Really?
Both.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how would you do that? Like a tissue culture sample or?
No, so this is all from seed. So we were just doing different like leaf samples and different samples of the plant as it was growing. And then we were verifying the final results with the finished flower.
And which lab were you using for this? Because it's important that you're getting accurate results because
Yeah,
you're relying
consistency
on this
too, yeah.
information.
Yeah, we were triangulating our results between multiple labs.
Wow, you guys are really doing the groundwork for this.
Yeah.
And this was like 9 years ago you were starting all this.
Yeah, we were
That's
just
cool.
starting that, and it was we came in at a special time because the labs were also figuring out how to accurately detect these minor cannabinoids, and so we were fortunate to be able to work with them.
How nice of you to
as
help them.
Yeah, as we developed these genetics, we could kind of know what we were expecting, and then we could work with multiple labs, see what results they were bringing back, and then if we saw a correlation and they all agreed, we were like, okay, good. If they disagreed, then we would go back and say, hey, this doesn't make sense. We need to run this again. Let's figure this out. And over the last 9 years, we've been selecting, mostly with the Pink Buscatus, increasing the THCV from where it was around 2% up to now it's 11, 12% in some cases.
That's amazing.
Averaging around 8 to 9% in our seed plants.
Saying the Pink Buscatus you were working on for 8 to 9 years ago, you started with what, 500 seeds, 800 seeds?
So we started with 800 seeds.
And 1 in 80 showed the potential.
Yeah.
So you would
we had
narrow
about
down
10
from there.
males and females.
And then from that pool, you started crossing them to one another, and then you would obviously test it again, and then you take the highest, what, 5 out of those, or?
Yeah. So on our garden, we only grow about 80 to 100 plants a year.
All full term?
Yeah, all full term. We don't do any light dep. We don't do any indoor. It's all just we really want to develop genetics that are grown using regenerative practices in the soil, connected to Mother Earth, and are evolving forward and bringing this important medicine to the people. And that's really what our goal is to breed resilient genetics that have been adapted to the native natural landscape of Mendocino County.
That's a really good point you make, because we just returned from Colombia, and my friend Carlos Vivas from Black Tuna does the same thing with his breeding. He breeds a project, but then he does a round or two in the native soil because he thinks it affects the genetic makeup going forward.
Yep.
Do you agree?
I 100% agree, and our males grow in the native soil, and then our females grow in our nice beds so that we can balance this. We need to produce high quality flower that can get into the market so we can continue to fund our research, but the males growing in the native soil with less water, little to no nutrients, little bit of shade, like more in like
Shade
the
ground's
natural forest landscape, that's building resiliency. That's building adaptability. That's building strength into these genetics.
Strengthen
as
the
they
genetics,
evolve
exactly.
forward.
Yeah, I've never thought about that. That's a really cool idea, just to keep it in the natural environment.
Yeah.
It's almost like the saying, tough times make tough people.
That's true.
You know,
Yeah.
and it makes those plants more sturdy. But yeah, my friend down there
The
in Colombia,
resilience.
or around the world, people adhering to the same practices, working with Mother Nature, not
Exactly.
against it, especially when you know you're going to be cultivating those seeds in that same environment. You want something that's going to work for you. It could be totally different from somebody in a coastal environment or somebody in a valley with more higher temperatures,
Yep.
All of those play a role.
Yeah, we call it the farm individuality.
Okay.
And it's
I
like
see.
what makes, like, each of us are our own individual. The farm has its own individual personality. And when we allow the plants to evolve within that farm community, then they get a piece of that personality, and then they learn how to thrive within that community. And so, this Rose Queen here, this is 18 years of breeding and cultivating year after year. And with the Pink Boost, we're almost to a decade.
That's amazing. And now your farm is located in Willits?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yep.
And you guys have been there the entire time?
Yep.
Yeah. And what have you noticed when you're talking about your location? This is what some people would refer to as terroir, correct?
Yes.
And similar to the wine industry, how terroirs can actually add value and a sense of identification to the grapes or where the vineyard was, it can be the same for cannabis, correct? So what have you noticed from your specific terroir or where you're located? Because you can even have different environments within the same town.
Yeah, 100%. And so we're super blessed to be able to farm on 2 different properties. And they both are on the same ridge, but one is on the west side of the ridge and one is on the east side of the ridge. And they're about 7-minute drive apart from each other, but very different microclimates. And it allows us to grow a certain genetic, breed it out on one farm, and then test it on the other farm. One is a little bit drier, receives a little bit more wind. It also gets the sunrise. The other farm is a little more, it gets the coastal influence, has a little more fog cover, and gets the sunset. So you're dealing with 2 different relationships to light, and you're dealing with 2 different relationships to moisture and how the air currents move through it. So then it allows us to get 2 different perspectives of terroir, and that's only within a 10-minute circle.
Yeah, it's amazing.
So there's so much diversity.
That makes it fun, especially bouncing back from one farm to the next after every season.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and nowadays, you know, we'll grow a couple plants of each, and we'll kind of get to see, like, as it's coming forward, which one does it thrive in more? Which each one prefers a little more coastal influence. Some prefer a little more arid influence.
Have you noticed after 5 or 6 seasons in the coastal environment, it might like the genetics of the more hotter sunrise climate?
Yeah. There's definitely.
They get strong enough.
Yeah, so for Pink Boost Goddess specifically, she really likes it to be a little more dry and arid. She likes the soil she wants her roots to really be able to dry out before she's watered again. And we actually give her about 2/3 the amount of water that we give most of our plants. And so to have these 2 different farms, we've been able to learn, okay, this is where she prefers. You know, if you just have one option, it's hard to know what's better. When you have 2 different options, you have a spectrum now that you can work back and forth in.
Yeah, but it does take deliberate intention, and like you said, paying attention to how each is reacting.
Yeah.
Do you also test each at the end of the season, and do you notice one having a higher result of THCV? Or is it just the happier the plant, the higher the cannabinoids usually tend to be?
So I've found just a little bit of stress. Not too much stress, but like you're saying, you know, a tough life makes a stronger person. And if it's too easy, we will see a little bit of the terpenes and cannabinoids. Like, they're still there in the same ratio, but they might be a little bit lower. But if you add just a little bit of stress, that's where you get that really expressive terpene and cannabinoid
It's amazing,
ratio.
right?
Yeah,
And we notice the same thing for resin farming specifically, because resin is somewhat of their defense mechanism.
Exactly.
So when you trigger a little bit of that stress, you may trigger a little bit more release and a little bit more production of that resin and those terpenes like you're talking about.
Yeah.
Because it is a plant, but it has a natural defense cycle, you know, just like us. Just like when our bodies get sick or anything like that, you get a cut, we're automatically going to start healing ourselves, you know?
Yeah, and it's a fine balance, because you can very easily overstress the plant. And if you overstress it, you know, it's kind of like a bell curve in a sense. And so we're always playing around, you know, every year is a little different, so the stressors are a little different, so we have to work with the plants.
The environmental stress is probably the little variables that are the most beneficial. You don't want to starve it of water, overheat it, or stuff like that, right?
Yeah, and also that's the beauty of sun-grown, is every year it's a little bit different.
Depending on the environment.
Depending on the environment, and that's where the terroir comes in. And we also are growing from seed in most of our plants, so there's seeds allow the plant to evolve forward. And that is something that's special and unique. We get to experience Pink Boost Goddess 2021, Pink Boost Goddess 2022. Each year is going to have a very subtle difference in there. It's more similar than it is different, but if you pay
exciting,
attention,
though.
It is. It's exciting. It keeps you coming back.
It does. And you have a couple jars in front of you. Can we show the people at home what you have?
I do, yeah. So this one here is the farm cut flower. Really nice, uplifting, or this is the Pink Boost Goddess in the farm cut jars. Really nice, creative, uplifting flow. And what we do with the farm cut is we intentionally leave a little bit of the sugar leaf on the buds there. And what that does is that protects the trichomes. Through what we've learned is through the supply chain, the buds are, moved around, they're kind of beaten a little bit, and when we leave a little bit of the sugar leaf on, it actually protects the flower. And so there's a little bit of education that's needed there because people are used to the tightly trimmed buds that, are all frosty and beautiful, but that little bit of sugar leaf, it kind of acts like the banana peel for the banana.
Some of my favorite growers do the same thing. It says it protects it from the light, from the damage of the other stuff in there. And really, if you love the plant and you want to preserve it, that's the natural protection for it.
Exactly. And I want people, when, I've heard from so many people, they go to the dispensary, they pick up flower, and it's all dried out or it's kind of crumbly. And so we've spent many years trying to perfect our storage and our cure because we harvest one time a year. And so what we've done is we've established like our shorter cures. We can get stuff out November, December, that's a couple weeks. Then we have a 3-month cure, and then we have a 6-month cure. So you can really experience how different parts of the strain can cure through different stages, and that really allows the trichomes to mature and the terpene profiles to stabilize in a really
How do you enjoy those longer cures?
Those are my favorite.
Really?
Really?
Yeah.
Because I heard back in the day, DNA Genetics was doing like 8-month cures, 10-month cures before they entered anything. And as I was getting into the industry, I'm like, how do you preserve it for that long? That sounds crazy. It wouldn't go bad.
Yeah.
But as you're bringing it up, it's almost magical to be able to experience something after that long that's still been preserved properly, so you can experience the maturity of the trichomes.
Yeah, exactly. And I find that right when you harvest and you smoke the flower, there's still a little bit of burn that you can get. And if you do a proper cure, it really becomes more and more gentle on the throat and on the lungs. And I think that's, part of that is the plant is kind of stabilizing into itself and really just kind of maturing. And there's something to that. One of the challenges is with sun-grown, if you leave it out in the sun for a day or two and it gets hot and cooks, it's like a head of lettuce. Once it wilts, it's not coming back. So many people think sun-grown is not that good, but that's because it hasn't been stored properly. It's similar to a bottle of wine. If you keep it stored properly, it's going to be great year, 2, 3 years later.
But the way the sun and the light, it goes the microbiology and everything, the way that it mixes with the soil, you can't even really imitate that with indoors. So you get really a very special version of it in the sun and in the depth version.
Yeah, it has the fullest expression, especially because of the sun supplies healing capabilities and the fuller spectrum that I feel like supplies a higher terpene profile as well.
Yep.
When we run the same exact pheno from indoors compared to outdoors, we usually result in a higher yield overall and a little bit of a terpier result from the sun-grown.
We did that with Pink Boost Goddess too.
Yeah.
We did indoor, light depth, and then sun-grown at 3 different elevations. And we found that the higher elevations produced the most diverse and highest terpene profiles. And the indoor trial produced the lowest total terpene content and lower total cannabinoids. And the Pink Boost Goddess didn't produce the magenta hairs.
Indoors?
Indoors. They were all white, which told me that the magenta color that you see is a response to the sunlight.
It's almost, do you think like a sunblock, like a natural sunblock for them?
Melanin?
I'm not really sure.
Yeah.
I think it's
That's fun to think about.
anthocyanin is the compound in there, but
Yeah.
I'm not 100% sure on that. But it does seem to be directly related to the sun,
That's
which is
amazing.
fascinating.
That's pretty cool, man.
Yeah, so you can see the difference between sun-grown and
Visually
indoor
taste it, test
within-
it.
Exactly.
Gosh, that's
Speaking of visually taste it, test it, I think the time is now for Joseph to get to try it. His Pink Boost Goddess, you've had this jar for how long?
I've had this jar for about a year and a half.
A
man.
year and a half,
This
so-
has been sitting in my little cold storage at the house. I knew there was a special
that's
moment
cool.
for it.
And this is that special moment. So do you think it's time? Should we bust it
think it's
out?
time. Yeah, let's try it
Can
out.
we grab a rig for him, please, Tony Hawk?
This
Maybe that
magic
Toro. I think that
moment.
Toro would treat him nice. Now, like you said, the Pink Boost Goddess didn't yield that great. Bubble hash, we've mentioned it before, is super genetic dependent. So just because you grow something and it's fire doesn't mean it's going to yield for solventless bubble hash extraction. because of the way the structure of the heads might be, they might burst before you can even get them to extract. So in this circumstance, we're looking at a very low yield. Thank you, Tony Hawk.
Highly volatile terpenes. I'm excited about the nerve
I got a banger.
helping it, the
Yeah.
nerve help that it's going to do. Because
Yep.
I've been having a little shocks here and there. I've been doing my best to not use synthetics for the healing and everything, but with, you know, healing, you want to make sure that your nerves and the inside is healing just as well as the outside.
Yep.
Yeah. So today we're gonna get to try this Pink Boost. Now I'm gonna show everybody at home. This is still in the fresh press form. So have you kept this in the fridge? It's been refrigerated, obviously.
Yeah, this has been, it's been in not in a fridge, but in like a cabinet that's in a stable environment, right
Like a
around 60, under 70.
And dark also.
Yeah, dark.
Now
Yeah.
that plays a big role in the curing. A lot of times people underestimate factors such as that in the post-processing, but like you said, in your slow cure, the same can kind of be said for curing a resin and rosin. The temperature, the light spectrum that it's exposed to, it all plays a role in how it's going to mature, the resin.
Yeah, and I think this is also a good moment to just share. So the Pink Boost Goddess just won 3 gold medals at the California State Fair. In the last 3 years, she's won 5 gold medals at the California State Fair, and then this year won the Golden Bear for overall best in show in the sun-grown category at the California State Fair.
That's
So,
amazing.
Congratulations.
So it's
just-
you're
just
gonna have to
given
rename
that-
it to Michael Phelps after all this. The Pink Boost Phelps coming out this fall. If there's gold to be had, it's gonna win it. Now, why do you think it's had such an amazing reaction from the consumers? Do you think it's from the high, the taste? Is it just overall everything?
I think, yeah, it's a little combination. So she had the highest terpene content out of all entries in the California State Fair at 4.5% terpenes.
And that's on flour?
That's on flour.
That's
wet.
crazy.
Yeah.
That can be the same for some extracts, so to hit that.
And that was packaged and tested in the farm cut jars.
And can you just explain farm cut? I'm sorry to interrupt you, but farm cut is you and a few other small farms, correct?
Yes, yeah. So with legalization, you know, we're a small family farm, and we knew going into it we needed to have a community we were all going to be able to support each other. So we created the Farm Cut Cooperative, and it's 5 small family farms. We're all multi-generational farmers. We all grow veggies. We all raise animals, grow medicinal herbs, and we grow cannabis. And so all of our flour is available in the farm cut jars, and the lid tells you which farm grows the flour.
Oh, awesome.
So this is my lid, Emerald Spirit Botanicals, but you'll find Happy Day Farms, you'll find Bryceland Forest Farm, Whitethorn Valley Farm, and Downome Farm. And together we make up the Farm Cut Cooperative, growing food, growing herb, all Sun and Earth certified.
Can you
organic
share
crop.
genetics with all of them?
So we have done some trials together, yeah.
But
and
mostly you have your own specific cuts?
for the most part, we've all we've kept, because we've all been specializing in our genetics for multiple decades and multiple generations. And so we each bring something unique to the table. And that's something that's beautiful about Farm Cut is you get to experience, in many cases, multiple generations of breeding work that have been done by 5 different families in Mendocino and Humboldt and Nevada County. Some of us do grow, like right now, Downome Farms has a really nice SFVOG that's testing at like 33% THC. It's just really nice flower. So we do grow some of the more
Elite
common
cuts,
strains.
yeah.
You're like, yes, please.
Yeah, but we do, like Happy Day Farms has like an ogre berry and a sour strawberry. These are like some of their genetics that they've been like breeding and developing, and sour strawberry is like an old sour diesel cross that they've kept on farm and been working on. So
Happy Day is awesome. We used to have a farm up on Bell Springs Road, and we
Yeah.
would, on Thursdays, this is just a small road, they would have their own farmers markets.
Yeah.
And Happy
gravel
Day would
pit.
be, yeah.
The gravel
So like
pit?
that's where our roots are from. We moved from Pennsylvania straight to there, and we'd go up on Thursdays, we'd be watering the plants, but we knew there's the taco stand was going to be up there. There was a guy that made tacos. There was a guy that pulled up in a van that said pet grooming, but he just used it as a front to move packs to Washington. And he would make the dirty martinis. Happy Day would be there. They would have their veggies. Somebody would be there with fresh flowers. This is a real community vibe, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Shout out Happy Day. They're some of the coolest guys, some of the realest, and they support their community. And they're doing it for the right intentions.
100%.
Obviously, so are you. Now,
Yeah.
let's get back to the Pink Boost.
All right.
And you were mentioning it just had the clean sweep, and you think it's a mix between the flavor, the high, and just the overall. Like I mentioned before, we're going to keep saying it throughout this episode. It's the intention that you and your mother have put into it. It is you and your mother at the farm, right?
Yeah, so it's my mom, my brother, my wife, and I.
That's beautiful. So it
Yeah,
really is
it's a family.
family affair, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but my mom is really, she's behind the breeding work.
Now I need to
yeah.
bring that. That's synchronistic because I was literally just thinking when we had Oyster Girl on the show, she said that your mom speaks to like the plant spirits.
Yeah.
And
That's epic.
and she made it a point that it was obvious that what you guys are doing isn't an accident. They didn't just pop a pack of seeds and say, "Oh, this is THCV. Let's do this." There's something more going on.
Yes, yeah. So my mom is an herbalist. She's a deeply spiritual woman, and when she was younger, she did a really impactful workshop that was on plant-spirit communication. And so these were sort of setting a space to go into ceremony to honor the spirit that lives behind the physical plant and to come into communion with the spirit of that plant. And by quieting the mind, opening the heart, sitting in silence, and sitting in gratitude, she's found a way to be able to receive guidance from the plants. And so what we're doing on the farm is a mix of spiritual scientific breeding, because we are testing all of the plants, we are looking at the chemical compounds, but we're also honoring spirit. And that's really important for us, is to, you know, just like behind each of your physical bodies, there is a spirit that animates us and brings us to life. And we believe that with the plants and the animals, there are also spirits that live behind the physical body. And it's really important to us to honor that and to commune with that and to work with the spirit as we allow the plants to evolve and bring the next generation of medicine onto the planet. So it's a really special
That's
process.
heavy.
That is. It's
That's
almost
nice.
the same as what the Native Americans were living by,
Yeah.
honoring a deeper sense of spirit behind everything. Now, that brings up a good point, and we started to talk about this after Spanibus because we noticed some of the best European makers, they didn't have a big farm to work with, but they would pop seeds and they would find a lot of like really good terpene profiles, a lot of winners. And we were like, I wonder if it's just because they had so much passion behind like what they're looking for, that maybe their intention, almost like a frequency, almost like a radio signal, was going out into the universe and it was just attracting more. Do you think in that sense how your mom quiets her mind and she almost is like opening herself up as an antenna to receive from the plant spirits, like you
Yeah.
said, direction? Do you think that the intention that we have when we're actually germinating seeds or while we're cultivating them, do you think that, like the terroir and the environment, plays a role in how it's going to turn out?
Yeah, I do. And as you know, it's hard to relate to that with plants, but it's easy to relate with that with our friends and with our community. When we treat our friends well, they provide us with gifts. When we try to exploit our community and we try to exploit the people around us, they're not willing to share. And we believe that that metaphor can be applied with the plants that we work with as well. And we really do believe that the plants are sharing some of this special medicine that they have with us and allowing us to welcome it into our garden so that we can share it with the world. And it is a little esoteric, but you know, I think after 20 years of doing it, like sometimes you can get lucky and there can be happy accidents, but you know, there's also like, there's been a lot of happy accidents, if that's
Too many
all that it is.
coincidences.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there,
All
I think
happy accidents.
there is something deeper there that's happening,
And
I
it's
believe
awesome that you guys combine the scientific approach with actually getting them tested, because you're proving that what you're doing is working.
The scientific
And
method.
the gold don't lie, baby.
Yeah.
You better
about
look
gold.
out. I might pawn a couple of those before it walks out.
Gonna
No,
be
we're
on
just
Etsy
kidding.
later.
We got respect for the plant. We got respect for the Boost Goddess. And I think without further ado, it's time that we
go
try
for it?
some of this. Yeah.
I'm
Speaking of
excited.
treating your friends well and them gifting you things, Sensei Solventless just walked in the door, a man who has never gifted us anything, no matter how well we treat him. So just shout out the asbestos man himself. He'll peddle you not rosin, but it is rosin. All right, let's do
Not
this. So
rosin.
I'll let you take your first scoop. Here's a fresh
right.
dabber from Resin Bros Official. Now be
Sweet.
careful because if
Beautiful.
that is fresh press, it might fling on you. You want me to do it for you? Be careful. It's like glass, right?
It is like glass.
Yeah, it's super
There's
stable.
tech that goes into this to not get
You
on
wanna
your
help
hair.
I'll
you?
let the experts, handle this.
He's a professional athlete, so
This thing can create shrapnel. We don't want to be taking the pink boost to the eyeball. We're trying to dab it today.
I mean, if it hits my hand, I'll be okay with it. I'll just rub it in, but like, it needs to be activated.
Wow, look at that, Darby.
What do you like
Look
when
at
you
that.
when you break into it?
Yeah, it starts
Wow.
to get, it's like a pane of glass. It's like we're chopping up the blue ice. Ha! Just kidding. Breaking Bad.
First. Puns.
So I'm just gonna slowly, if we had a dabber that applied a little bit of heat, Darby's 10 steps ahead of
Let
me.
me clean it off. I'm
Yeah.
warming it up and grab me that Q-tip. Here we go.
So we're just being real careful because we don't want to lose. 5 pounds went into this. So when you're working with something,
That rare.
you don't want to lose a
There you
drop.
go. It's cooled down enough to where you could probably get in there now.
Oh, yeah,
There you
we
go.
Beautiful.
Damn, congratulations.
Thank
That's
you.
special.
Wow. And this is an honor to get to try this with you.
It
So
is.
thank you for bringing this
Yeah.
to the show.
And I'm
course.
super excited to be able to use it while I'm healing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Check out the healing properties because the feedback you've been telling us about is amazing, and I'm excited to see how.
Yeah, what are the chances? Some would say this isn't a coincidence. Darby's arm actually wasn't broken this morning. We took it out back to the door and started slamming it because we knew the pink boost was coming in.
Seen
We
that
had
movie
to prove a
Casino,
point.
right? With the hammer. Oh.
Darby didn't pay his dues, and Rosin Evo came in and just broke his arm this morning.
Dave's
Pay your
crazy.
bills.
He said, we're either turning off the electric or breaking your arm.
I'm like, the grow needs to go. Take the arm.
All right. Do you want me to use the heating one, or do you want me to just
Hook
break
me
one
up with
off?
that thing
Yeah.
right there. Because,
This?
yeah, no, the heating one.
yeah.
Because I'm going to have to use that to drip it in there too.
And I just turn it on once to...
You can just let go of the button, just tap it once, and then it'll warm up enough to where it'll give it a little action. There you go. Perfecto. Look at that little drop.
Yeah, nice.
Wow.
Want to put it there? Check it out on the camera.
Yeah, there we go.
Oh, there we go.
The three amigos of the pink boost.
That's
About to
right.
get boosted.
Dude.
Like it's Fast and the Furious. I'm about to be like Dom Toretto in this bit.
Boost, boys.
All right, so we have some nails heated up. I'll put this over here.
Great. And one thing that I like to do is to just, honor the plant and say thank you for, everything that it's done to get to this point. And to express gratitude not only while it's growing, but before it's, coming into our bodies.
Yeah, so let's give it a little moment of gratitude.
Massive
little-
Let's let it cool down too, so we don't want to
Okay.
disrespect this. We want to take
Cheers.
it a
Cheers,
nice
yes.
cheers.
Cheers.
Will you
Yes.
hand us that Predator over there, Darbs?
Great times with great people and great concentrate.
Yeah,
This
that's
is
right.
a very special experience. I'm glad I get to be a part of this.
Yeah, what, 8-9 years of intention went into the breeding, but before that, even establishing your farm. How many years has your mom been running the farm before you were even around?
So I was born and raised on the farm. She got the property that we are now, where this pink boost goddess was grown. She got the property right about 20 years ago.
Wow.
But where I was born was like one ridge over, in it's called Brook Trails.
Just over the ridge.
Yeah, just over the ridge.
Just over the
Yeah.
ridge. Beautiful place.
It is. Yeah,
Amongst the redwoods. Yeah,
Exactly.
if anybody's ever been there. Somebody told me Steven Seagal had a house there before.
I didn't know that.
I wouldn't blame them.
Yeah, it's a
You
nice
never
place to go
know.
though.
I mean, I visited Willits for 6 weeks and did some work up there.
You're
and
up there for 6 weeks.
yeah, hash takes a while to make. But
All right, we're...
it was
guys
an
ever
amazing
play
place.
disc golf?
I love disc golf.
At Lake Mendo, I've done that course. All right,
Yeah.
we're ready to go. And
Okay.
cheers.
Yeah,
Thank you
cheers,
to the
you
plant.
guys. Yeah, many thanks to Pink Boost.
I'm a little hot right now, so I'm gonna let her cool down because I don't want to disrespect her. I'm gonna take her low and slow. Nice little 800. No. Are you ever cap on the top of the nail? I have a ball right here. There you go. Now give it a ripper. That's perfect.
Wow.
Nice.
You've officially been boosted.
I love it. The flavor comes through on it pretty nice.
It really
too.
does. That's crazy
Yeah.
too, because
Even after that cure.
sometimes, like when you've had something curing for that long, like even if it's been in a state of like controlled environment, you can kind of get that cured taste, but this is still tasting super fresh.
Yeah, this still has, like, one thing that you commonly lose is the osamine terpene, and I still, because I've spent time trying to be able to recognize that terpene, and I still recognize some of that flavor coming through on here, which is, yeah, really, really nice.
Wow. And you mentioned some of the effects, it can suppress the appetite. So kind of the opposite, how some strains can make you have the munchies, this one can kind of suppress it, right?
Yeah. So the way that I describe it is it helps to regulate blood sugar.
So you don't have
And then
cravings.
through that, yeah, and so then through that can help suppress the appetite, although I tend to try to stray away from that word because it builds this idea of you can use this and then not eat, and it's more about shifting your relationship to your food and consuming just enough to be satisfied and not over consuming.
So it puts you at more of a homeostasis as opposed to needing to feel like you need to fill some type of like unnecessary urge that would otherwise be there. Yeah.
Yeah,
Very enjoyable.
yeah, it's nice. I like the flavor. The way that came through is like,
It came
I
through
was
amazing.
curious. I was curious to see how it would go, because it's been a longer store, and I have this habit of when there's something special, I just hold on to it, and sometimes I don't always take the time to enjoy it.
It's
and
a prize.
This has been something that's like been a really special moment for me, and just the way everything lined up with all of the awards coming around Pink Boost and you reaching out, I was like, and I think this is the moment to imbibe it and enjoy it and appreciate some of the medicine that she's got to share.
Yeah, and we were talking about how this was made from regenerative cannabis. How do you feel that the regenerative process actually enhances the profile? Do you feel that you get better results from working with practices that are more in tune with your environment, or do you just do it from the standpoint of what's good for the earth is good for us?
Yeah, I mean, definitely what's good for the earth is good for us. I truly believe that. And, as farmers, like, we spend a lot of time focusing on the plant, but it's also like the plant is shaped by its environment, and it's shaped by the soil that it's grown in and what's happening in the garden around it. And so for us, it's really important to make sure that the space is beautiful, that it feels good. When we walk into the garden, we feel good. And we want it to be a nice space where the wildlife can enjoy themselves. We have a nice balanced population of insects, birds, hawks, snakes, like all the way up to bears. We're part of the wild. And when you have that diversity, it becomes harder for specific pests to go out of control. Because
I was just going to ask
they're
you
there.
that, because some farms, they think you need to kill everything. You need to kill any weeds in your garden, or you need to take care of any pest or anything. But you think actually working with natural predators and in the natural cycle of the environment is actually better.
It is, and the challenge there is it's a slippery slope, because what has happened is so much of agriculture today, the diversity has been stripped away. And so now you don't have a defense mechanism that if a pest shows up, there's nobody else there. Like, and the pest is going to hit them, and
No
it's going to hit
natural
them hard.
ecosystem to
Exactly.
checks and balance all these,
Yeah. So and one of the biggest pain points is the transition from a monocrop or an industrial scale approach to land stewardship, transitioning it to a regenerative approach, and it takes a couple years. And for many people and many landowners, like, they can't afford a couple years to like navigate this like ever-changing dynamic shift from Monsanto industrial monocrop to regenerative organic cultivation. Like, there's a lot of unknowns. You have to be able to both react but also be proactive and see the problems before they become a major problem. So it requires you being out there every day and connecting. And that's really, my mom and my brother are out there every single day. Like,
Talking to the plants.
exactly.
Reading the plants.
Exactly.
And when you're growing, you're actually always growing with the plant. You're always learning something, you know?
Exactly.
It's not necessarily a field that you can say, okay, I've been doing it for 10 years or I've been doing it for 20 years. I know everything. We're going to plug at X, Y, Z. It's not, like you said, especially sun-grown, you're working with the environment. It's a constant dance, as some would say, you know?
Yeah.
And you can't just force your way through the dance. You have to work with your partner, whether it be a business partner, a farm partner, environmental partner. You know, you need to find ways to work with your genetics, everything.
Your family.
Yeah, everything.
That's
it all plays a
special.
role.
Yeah.
And speaking of the changing landscape from people, Monsanto in specific, and this cannabis industry, we've kind of seen the transition from the Prop 215 era, the farmers markets that they used to have at like Area 101 where you could sell your vegetables with your weed. And now we've kind of transitioned into this Prop 64, which is industrializing cannabis. Where do you see the industry going from here, and what are your goals with Emerald Spirit?
Yeah, I mean, I remain hopeful for where the industry is going. I think right now we're going through a pretty rough patch. A lot of the small farmers have gone out of business, lost their land. A lot of, generations of knowledge, of genetics have been lost over the last 10 years. And we are living through an extinction event. And so what I'm really committed to is bringing Emerald Spirit Botanicals and the farm cut community forward as a beacon of light and hope for the small regenerative farmers that have been doing amazing work up in the Emerald Triangle for generations. And we've been great at growing flower, and haven't really had to leave the hill that much and transition. And so to go from needing to not only grow great flower, but that then transition into meeting and connecting with different dispensaries, getting to know their teams, educating the teams about the farm, and then connecting with the customers that are coming into the stores. It takes a completely different skill set.
Job, yeah.
It is.
And most farmers, they can't leave the farm to do all that, yeah. So
Yeah,
it takes a family or a crew to be able to pull it off, to actually represent all that hard work that is going down the farm. Because that, like you just said, was the biggest issue. A lot of the people that were putting in the most work and the best intentions for the plant didn't have the time to go around and do all the schmoozing or the political game or the marketing,
Yeah.
Because it's not just quality now, it's this game that you have to play with freebies and with handouts and with terms and everything is the
cool packaging,
ever-changing landscape,
Yeah, and that was really, I was, fortunate enough to get to go to college at UC Santa Cruz, and it allowed me to get to know people like outside of our small community. And there's so many farmers that grow incredible flower, but they've been on their little piece of the mountain. They're a very quiet, kind of introverted people. Like, they don't want to go out and meet people and talk to people and then track conversations and follow up on all of the things.
Convince them that their weed is good.
Exactly. It's like they know that their weed is good. Mm-hmm. Like, they've known that they've been growing for decades.
That's why they're good.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And so that transition was just, it cut the legs off of so many small family farms. And I was just in a really fortunate place where, my family, we have a good relationship all together. And I kind of just took this leap early on, like 6 or 7 years ago, to try to figure out, okay, how do we bring this into the new system that's being created with legalization? And I kind of took on that task within our family unit. I had no idea what I was getting myself into. It's been way more challenging than I think it really needs to be, but I've just stayed committed, and I've adapted, and I've learned. And one of the themes is, like, if you just keep your mind open and you don't think you know everything, you just stay willing to learn and adapt. Like, that's really what it takes right now, is to be understanding and patient and kind, and also set up a solid system that works and that you can follow through on.
Laid down the groundwork to be able to succeed and grow vertically and keep it vertically integrated.
Yeah, and keep a small community of people that are supporting the vision, because we've seen, when things get bought out, and it's nice to have a lot of capital, but if you don't have the right heart behind that capital, then, it can often
fail.
You're in it for the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
And so for us, you know, we value quality. That's what we prioritize more than, you know, money and quantity. And for us, it's a passion project. And we're still trying to find our way to make it, you know, make it really work. And we are seeing a lot of, you know, there's positive signs on the trail that say like this is the path. But right now we look around and everybody's struggling.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, how do we find our way through this? And how do we like hold hands together so that we can get through this together and support each other? And for me, the cooperative model is like the best way to do that.
Agreed.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Everything that you guys are doing is the right way. It has the right intentions, and they're the right people that we need to support in this industry. They've been doing it long before it was about the money, and they've been doing it for the right reasons, for the plan. A lot of times people get into this sense of needing to be a public figure or wanting to have a cannabis brand to be popular, when we need to remember there'd be no brands in general without the plant to begin with. And the plant has been here way longer than any of these brands have been, and it's going to be here longer than any of these brands will be. So we need to honor and cherish everything that it has supplied all of us, because we wouldn't be at this table, we wouldn't be in this studio, we wouldn't be on this YouTube channel if it wasn't for the plant. So thank you, Joseph, for reminding us all of what it's really about. Thank you for all the work you and your mother and your entire family do for the industry. If people want to get in touch with you, if they want to carry Farm Cut, if they need to find you, how can they do it?
Yeah, so we've created 2 websites. There's farmcutcannabis.com for all farm cut specific. You can learn about the farms, learn about the cooperative, see the different products and the stores that we're in. And then I've also started a project with Emerald Spirit Botanicals specifically, and that's emeraldspiritbotanicals.com. And I'm starting to document, you know, parts of our journey and share, like, you know, if a patient shares a story with us, then I can put it under the tab of the strain that they're using. And, you know, so if you go to Pink Boost Goddess, you can see on the page of different stories from patients that I've spoken to, and then some stories from around the world that I've heard, and just sharing that. And then also we have a little tab of the stores that carry each specific strain. So
Smart.
Yeah, just trying to tell the story and have a little platform online that people can go to if they really want to take the deep dive. It's a deep dive,
With
but
the shop,
it's there.
and you said there's a shop locator also, right?
There is.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's important.
emeraldspiritbotanicals.com. If you want to leave a testimonial and tell everybody how much you love their strain, go to their website. If you need a store finder, they have it all. Joseph, thanks for joining us today. Congrats on all your recent success and your success, no doubt, going forward. You guys, if you ever see the Pink Boost Goddess, make sure you jump on it, because it is rare and it is limited, and you're supporting a craft of over 20 years.
And I'm feeling good.
I do. I was thinking, I don't need any more of this coffee. I'm up. Pink
Yeah.
Boost got me ready.
That's
Good
it.
thing, too, because we got a second episode later. All right, guys. Hot Dabs, thank you everybody for tuning in. Live from Rosin Evo Studios in sunny San Diego. Thank you, Patreon. Thank you, everybody at home. We will see you next time.
We'll see you on another time.
Hot Dabs out.
Nice.
Good job, dude.
Thank you.
Nailed it.
Yeah. Good times, guys. I'm feeling pretty nice about that.
Me
That's
too,
like-
honestly.
Right?
Yeah.
I'm feeling good.
Yeah, and that's the Pink Boost, is it's like, it's not like heavily stoned, but it's like, it's a shift.
Well, it doesn't need to be a day ender.
No.
It's a day starter.